The May 24th meeting, Intergovernmental Relations Committee will now come to order. The clerk, please call the roll.
Chairman Antelli.
Here.
Mr. Baroff. Here. Mr. Gamina. Here. Mr. Monroe. Here. Mrs. Valerio. Here.
Is there anyone signed up for the public forum?
There is not.
Is there anyone who would like to address the committee that's not signed up? Next item on the agenda, approval minutes. You have the April 26, 2011 minutes before you. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. We have one presentation before the committee. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to take a few minutes to review the County Executive's proposed 2012 to 2017 capital improvement program. Everyone should have a copy. This document has been prepared using our usual process, which began last September, and has been reviewed and recommended by the Monroe County Planning Board, who conducted 3 public information meetings on the program back in early March. It is now being submitted formally to you by the County Executive for your consideration. Under the Charter, you're required to hold a public hearing before adopting that, and hopefully you will schedule that for your July meeting and adopt this program at that time. Adoption does not carry with it any funding approvals. Those would occur as part of the 2012 capital budget, which is submitted to the Legislature as part of the 2012 operating budget, which again would be adopted in December, and the associated bond resolutions for those first-year projects in 2012 would be adopted at that time. There is one program area that's not in this program that if you were to look at last year's program you would have seen, and that would have been the Board of Elections and their election management system, which was scheduled for 2012. That project has now been handled through Resolution 322 of 2010, where the Legislature approved a contract and an annual allocation for 5 years, at least for the first year of it, but with 4 subsequent years of payments for a contract to complete that project. So it's no longer a capital project. The one area that is still in the program, however, is information services, which is on page 11 of the document. There are 2 projects. One, the countywide communications infrastructure, which has been a project in many of the past programs and continues in this 6-year period with annual allocations for improvements to the county's basic computer systems. There is a new project, the countywide enterprise resource planning system updates, which is scheduled for 2015 and 2016. And this project is to update the automated systems that we use for human resources, finance, and payroll, which are part of our SAP system. And that, Mr. Chairman, is a very brief overview, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Paul. Very good. Good job, Administration. Next item on the agenda. Then we'll get to the questions when we move the referral.
Okay. Referral 11-143, the 2012.
Moved by Legislator Valerio, second by Legislator Gamina. Any discussion? Legislator Baroff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a few brief questions. I recognize that this is, I don't want to say pro forma, but it's definitely something that I'm curious about. And so through the chair, I'd like to ask the administration just a couple questions, particularly about the county-wide communications infrastructure project. I'm assuming from reading this that this is essentially and forgive me if it's not solely, but essentially a maintenance project. Is that correct? Or are there significant upgrades associated?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, there are several smaller parts of the project. One part that continues pretty much every year is the addition of storage and the replacement of existing large amounts of storage for shared county-wide projects and county-wide department things. There are other smaller multiple things that make up this.
Okay. Through the chair, then, if this is in fact it's an ongoing process year after year, and it's not something that's included in our contract with the Upstate Telecommunications LDC, why is it that this is not a part of the regular budget, and in fact it's part of the capital improvement CIP?
Through the chair, Scott Adair, Director of Finance. The reason why that is because we have determined that these items that are purchased through this process are more of a capital nature than an operating nature, and thus the need to include them in a capital budget and to have the option to finance them with debt or long-term debt to fund the particular project.
But through the chair, then, but the advantages of funding it through debt would not be the primary consideration for considering these things to be, or treating these things to be capital improvement as opposed to part of the budget, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct. The items being purchased are capital in nature. The ultimate ability to, this also gives us an ability to finance it at the end of the day, but the necessary items included are all capital in nature.
And through the chair, one final question. What would the approximate breakdown be of the actual things, objects being purchased of this total amount of actually objects as opposed to the cost of installing or updating or maintaining, approximately?
Through the chair, we'll have to get that information to you.
Thank you. I'd appreciate that. And that's all.
Any other discussion? Any other, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Carried. Any other matters become before the committee? There being no further business, May 24th meeting, Intergovernmental Relations Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of Intergovernmental Relations is scheduled for Tuesday, June 28th, 2011, 5:30.